Homeworld 3 has a lot to live up to, and honestly, I've been somewhat anxious if the game was going to live up to expectations. Yet, from the opening moment, when the camera pans across the mothership and its fleet, it was clear that Blackbird has captured the spirit of Homeworld. Yes, that first camera shot really does hit hard, but it's far from the only one. The game is filled with moments like those, from the ship shattering crossing through the deadly asteroid field to the first arrival of the incarnate Homeworld's enemies. The game really does hit home. But I'm sure you also want to hear about the gameplay, so let's dive into that. Now, I've been playing Homeworld 3 for a few weeks as a part of the early access campaign from the publishers. This video then is sponsored by Gearbox, so my thanks to them. Check out the links in the video description to learn everything you need to know. So I've been in two minds about how much of this game to show. Narrative and story are of course so important to Homeworld, and if I don't show enough, you won't get a feel for the game. But if I show too much, I'll spoil the story. So everything you see here is from the first 8 or so missions. The game is available from the 13th of May on both Steam and the Epic Game Store. So Homeworld 3 brings one of the best changes to the series: direct control of the mothership. Unlike the earlier games, where once the mothership was deployed, it remained stationary, Homeworld 3 allows you to maneuver it across the map and even change its orientation between horizontal and vertical. And of course, the sheer size of the mothership makes this newfound ability fantastic for strategy. In Mission 6, for example, where the fleet had to cross a deadly asteroid field, positioning the mothership carefully provided protection for smaller ships, whilst the larger ships and frigates scouted ahead to shoot down incoming asteroids. But that said, the ability to directly control the mothership doesn't make the game any easier. Just as with the previous games, Homeworld 3 is a challenging game. It will make you think, plan and preempt your approach to all missions. What's more, there's no one-size-fits-all approach to these missions. There's a variety of ways to achieve your objectives, and these are largely down to how you decide to use your ships to create your own strategic approach. But that doesn't mean that the game is overwhelmingly tough. There are of course a selection of difficulty modes that include story, easy, medium and hard. More than that though, you can actually customize difficulty settings, and here you can really go to town. You can make the game as easy or as difficult as you like, ranging all the way from an invulnerable fleet or infinite resources, all the way to making every aspect of the game, such as enemy spawns and objective timers, extremely challenging. And naturally, I'm always really pleased to see so many options in a game. The more options, the better, and the more accessible it actually becomes for everyone. Ultimately, I do think it's fair to say that difficulty really does affect how you might approach the game. And if you are very much into RTS games and are more of a tactician when it comes to those things, then Homeworld 3 does work very well. But likewise, if you're new to these things, that is also going to work as well. Another feature which I found absolutely exceptional for an RTS game was the ability to slow down time. Now you do have a tactical pause that allows you to pause a game and think about the commands that you want to issue and get a bit of an overview of the map, but additionally you can slow the time down to quarter speed, half speed, 3/4 speed or just regular speed at 1. And this means you really do have time to think, and it's not all about fast-paced reactions unless that's what you want it to be. Now, moving on to some of the ships, and I touched on a part of this a moment ago when discussing the mothership, which can be used to tactical advantage. It turns out the same is also true for the carriers. These are large capital ships that have much of the same functionality as the mothership. They allow you to produce other smaller ships. The carriers can be moved and positioned anywhere on the map, and from what I can see you can have 3 of these at once in addition to your mothership. More importantly though, the carriers are indeed production powerhouses. They manufacture all the units you need in the game, and the fact that the carriers can be moved around means that you can choose exactly where to place the location of your unit production, and this is extremely helpful in certain missions. For example, when defending an objective, I found myself placing one of the carriers at the choke point, and this allowed me to manufacture increasing numbers of units at vital strategic locations. Tactics, of course, can also be taken much further. The maps in Homeworld 3 contain large megastructures. Not only are these visually impressive, but they are often important to the missions, and sometimes they might contain an objective itself, in the event, for example, that you need to dock with one of them. Other times, they act as a vital cover for your ships. Attacking enemy ships, meanwhile, can take on different approaches. Attacking large ships, for example, from the rear can be extremely beneficial as they have weaker armour on the back, and that really does add to the overall strategy of the game. And let's not forget formations. These were a key feature in the previous Homeworld, and they make a return here, and again, very important. And the one thing I really did enjoy when talking about formations was taking a massive section of my fleet and putting them into a walled formation. This was both visually impressive, but at times could be a great way to approach specific objectives or goals. This also leads me on to ships themselves. Your fleet is persistent from mission to mission, and this means that ships can take on battle scars and will retain those battle scars into the next mission. And watching my fleet grow from mission to mission is something I really like, although it really hit hard any time I lost a ship that I had a particular attachment to. Now, I've mentioned ships and unit production a few times, and some of you might be wondering exactly how that works, especially if you aren't familiar with Homeworld series. So the mothership, which is the central hub of your fleet, and if the mothership is destroyed, by the way, it's game over. But the mothership allows you to build new units, and units come in a variety of sizes. Small fighters, known as recon ships and interceptors, are fast and mobile, and interceptors don't pack much of a punch on their own, but collectively they can certainly do a lot of damage. The game also has bombers, which are great to deploy against large targets, especially static ones. Frigates, meanwhile, are the bread and butter for the game, and easily my favourite class of ships. There's a number of different types, suited to different purposes. Some are effectively anti-fighter frigates with guns that can track the rapid movements of interceptors. Others carry massively powerful iron cannons on the front that deploy a devastating blast of fury, but they're also slow to shoot. Now, it's important to use the right class of ship for the various different objectives in Homeworld, and that means you're going to really need to plan out how you want to approach each objective. So whilst the mothership and also the carriers are capable of producing ships, they need resources to do so, and these resources are scattered across each map, and you need resource collectors to go out and pick them up. It's vital to always have as much resource on hand as possible, and you'll need them to not only build new ships, but also to replace the ones you inevitably lose. Resource collectors also have another purpose. If you can get them close enough to larger enemy frigates, the collectors are capable of capturing them, and they will then be returned to the mothership for repurposing and studying. Also, collecting salvage or collecting particular objectives can also form a focus of some missions. And yes, research also plays a part of your production. You can research new abilities for your ships, which often means weapon upgrades, and these are abilities that you can manually activate during combat and can provide a number of different benefits. Ultimately then, I have really enjoyed Homeworld 3, and for my primary focus on this, the game has been all about the campaign, and personally, I feel the campaign is well put together. Each map is well thought out and strikingly beautiful. I also found I needed to really think about my approach to completing each objective on each mission. The one disappointment that I do have about the campaign though is that it is short. In total, there are 13 missions, and this might sound like a decent number, but at the end of the day, depending upon your skill, the game can be completed in a relatively short time frame. And that's where the other side of Homeworld 3 comes into play, the new Wargames mode, and this gives Homeworld 3 a lot of replayability. These are skirmish-focused co-op maps that place you against the enemy and ask you to achieve specific goals. There is a roguelike element to Wargames. When you die, you return back to Mission 1. However, each time you play, you gain more power for your fleet and for the next run-through. Whilst for now, there are a limited number of maps for this mode, more will be released later on, and I'll be talking about that in just a moment. So in the Wargames mode, it's important to understand that you won't have access to the mothership. Instead, your main ship is a carrier. These, nonetheless, are very large and to all intents and purposes serve the same function as the mothership. So whilst the Wargames mode is a co-op in nature, there's nothing stopping you playing these missions solo. In fact, the game will scale according to the number of players, which is actually a very neat feature. So now that Homeworld 3 is here, you might be wondering what's next. Well, there is a content roadmap for future releases. So the roadmap is a mix between free content and paid content, and this is going to alternate month by month. In June, for example, there's a free content drop. This will include new challenges and new artifacts. In July, there's the first paid DLC, And then we go on to August again, which is another free content drop, which you can see also includes new maps and new systems, and so on all the way into the fourth quarter and into 2025. The Standard Edition includes all the free upcoming DLC, whilst the Deluxe Edition includes all of the paid DLC as well, and of course you can purchase the Year 1 Pass. Ultimately then, I've been really impressed with what I've seen so far with Homeworld 3. Like I say, spent quite a few weeks with it now, and it's been a lot of fun, and it's a very, very good addition to the Homeworld franchise. It fits right in very nicely. Do check out that link in the video description where you can find out everything you need to know. My thanks again to Gearbox for sponsoring this video. Thanks for watching this video all the way to the end. I'll catch you next time. Take care.